The AI hype is continuing this earnings season as tech giants boosting their spending in the technology. Alphabet and Microsoft reporting big CapEx spending in their latest results as they fight to win the AI arms race. Now, a bipartisan group of senators led by Chuck Schumer are recommending that Congress spend at least $32 billion over the next 3 years to develop its own artificial intelligence. So what is the next big catalyst for this technology? Joining us now to discuss this is Rich Lesser, BCG Global Chair. Rich, thanks for coming on with us. I mean, we talk all the time about how companies are chatting it up about AI and their earnings prints. It makes them sound good, but it's not always clear how they're actually utilizing it. So what can you tell us that you're seeing in terms of how companies and how many companies are really starting to utilize AI to beef up their efficiency?
So I think we're at a really exciting transition right now, where for the first year or so through most of 23, many companies were focused on just understanding the technology and what it could possibly do. I think now more and more companies are realizing there's a major opportunities here. And the challenge is if you take 1,000 flowers bloom approach, you don't translate anything into real outcomes at scale. And so we see companies more and more focused on what are the key outcomes that you can drive that meaningfully move overall business performance. And if I just give you a few examples of those, in the pharma R&D world, we're seeing people use it to actually create new molecules that may be equally effective, but actually safer because they're more targeted. To take development and regulatory processes that are filled with paperwork and reduce the time to generate reports and produce protocols by 80%. To take claims processing, which is, normally takes over a week to do, and take it down to hours or a couple days. To take customer service and really empower their customer service reps to be much more able to spend time focusing on the customer and less time having to read and memorize the manual. And those are all, depending on which business you're in, really tangible opportunities that drive both greater customer value and greater financial impact. And that starts to get pretty exciting for businesses.
Rich, in terms of what CEOs need to communicate to their employees, to shareholders if they're a public company here, in terms of why this AI investment makes sense, what investors want to see, what are the critical questions that they need to answer at this stage of the cycle?
So with investors, we would argue that companies need to highlight that they are not just there to say they're doing generative AI to get to nifty pilots and shows at investor meetings. They're there to meaningfully improve business outcomes, which is often about transforming entire business functions and processes. Sometimes it's about creating entirely new business models to drive top line growth. And that they are going to learn, but they're going to learn by doing, not by creating a lot of paper. And I think that that's what investors want to hear. And then within a relatively short space of time, they should get to see tangible business outcomes. I think with employees, it's the essential part of the journey, actually. We have this framework in BCG that we talk about all the time, 10-20-70. 10% of the work is on the algorithms, 20% of the work is on the digital and data platforms, 70% is on people, process, org, leadership, culture, all of the things to go from having a very interesting capability to actually deploying it. And there's a huge effort around reskilling. There's a huge effort around changing how people view the technology and learn to work together with it, how employees work together across functions, because AI can actually create massive value when you stop looking at it in a very narrow lens and look at it in a broader based way. And that requires an enormous amount of investment in people. And we see it played back. The companies that are leading in deploying AI are actually getting higher scores from their people on Glassdoor, are actually viewed as more positive places to work, places that care more about their people and wanting to invest in their skills, not just for the job they have today, but for jobs they might have in the future. So there are different messages, but they're both critical messages for investors and for employees.
Well, and interested in this, Rich, because in your survey print, you've got a mix of consumer sentiment surrounding AI. Did it surprise you that consumers were a little bit more positive than one might think about something that everyone talks about as this scary elephant in the room that's going to take everybody's jobs?
Look, I think we all wear three hats. We're consumers, we're citizens, and we're employees. And that's the vast majority of Americans and sometimes students. It depends on what ages we're talking about. But I think if you're a consumer or frankly a student, you look at this and you say, I should be able to get information more easily. It should be able to navigate my world. It should be able to help me distill what's important and what's not. I think if you're employees, it's a mixed feeling. These are skills you want to learn. You know where the world is going. But of course, you worry, will AI eventually replace my role or my job? Or will the skills that I need to acquire be skills that I can acquire? And then as citizens, of course, there are concerns around misinformation and risks to critical infrastructure or other things. And so I think each of us wears multiple hats. And I don't think it's surprising that people view this AI world differently depending on which hat they're wearing.
Makes a lot of sense. Rich Lesser, always great to talk to you. Thanks so much for hopping on with us this morning. Global Chair
Pleasure.
of BCG. We appreciate it.